Mosquitoes swarming, rats invading, scorpions in the house. You're in a panic and you may end up hiring the wrong business, spending way too much money. I'm Joe Ducey with the Better Business Bureau. This is Joe Knows Better. All right, joining me in studio is Dave Burns, President and General Manager of Burns Pest Elimination here in Metro Phoenix, but you cover Arizona?
All of Arizona and Southern Nevada.
Southern Nevada. All right. And Austin Burns, Director of Operations at Burns. Austin's also on the board of the directors of Arizona's Pest Professionals Organizations, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, guys. I told you I was going to ask you first because people are freaked out by these things. What's one of the worst scenarios that you've seen when you've arrived at somebody's place? I don't know. Let's go for Dave. You want to go first?
I think as of late, I think the biggest panic thing that happens are rats. Rats. We have rats coming out of toilet, rats eating pipes.
You know, I've heard that, but you've actually had rats
Absolutely.
Oh, my God. Can you imagine?
They backstroke right out of the toilet.
Some of that stuff doesn't freak me out, but that would freak me out. It's like, what are they doing in there? The backstroke, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Austin, what do you see?
Bed bugs. Bed bugs are on the rise, especially after COVID. Once people started traveling more, going international, definitely see a rise of those coming back to the States, and people have been calling in a panic.
And now bed bugs, so you see, it's not as, I guess you see them, are they as visible as rats? I mean, do they hide? Do they go under the bed? Where do these things typically?
Typically, they're going to be in the seams of the mattress, under the bed. We've seen them in baseboards, headboards, bed frames, things of that nature. You can see them. They are small. They're tough to see. If you don't know what you're looking for, they can go unknown. But once the infestation gets large enough, and if you do know what you're looking for, you can absolutely see them.
All right, we're on bed bugs. So tell me a little bit about what are you looking for? I mean, what would be a possible sign that you have bed bugs?
First and foremost is going to be blood stains on the sheets or the mattress itself from the
person's blood
the
or
person's blood. Yep, from the blood
really?
meal. So similar to mosquitoes, they need a blood meal. So bed bugs, while you're sleeping, they're attracted to the CO2 that we release.
So you're the host.
You're the host. And so you'll see blood spots on the mattress. That's typically the first sign. Beyond that's going to be little black spots, like I said, on those headboards, on the baseboards, and that's fecal matter from the bed bugs and or their eggs.
Yeah, that's just good all the way around.
Oh, yeah.
And Dave, with rats, I guess that's pretty obvious. So are there going to be signs where you don't see the rat, but you see the damage?
Yeah, more often we get the call of I'm hearing something running around.
Yeah.
I hear something banging around in the walls. If you're seeing the rat, you got a bigger problem.
Yeah.
Most of the time, the rat itself, he's just trying to be very secluded, staying away. So we see signs of rodent droppings in, water closets or areas confined. We see a lot of damage, insulation and things being moved out of the wall, or actually holes that have been eaten through the sheetrock or through the fascia boards of a home.
Yeah, so these things, that's why they've been around for so long and survived.
Absolutely.
I've seen them in my car. Like we had them in the, I think the evidence was in like a little nest they formed in the hood of one of the cars we had sitting around. That actually happens.
Oh, yeah, all the time. And we get somebody will complain their car won't run, so they'll call the dealership, and the dealership sends a tow truck out, and it goes back in, and they said, you've got a rat inside, and it ate all the wiring.
It's just crazy. And they don't know until whatever. They're open to the hood and find the wiring's eaten. What is a typical call, you guys? Well, I guess I can't say typical. There probably are people who prepare, right, and get their place done beforehand. Or do you get panic calls with people who say, oh, my gosh, I got this thing going on right now. I found a scorpion in the backyard or whatever.
We get a few people that are mostly Arizona natives that say, I've moved and I need to get service set up. I would say most of our new business is being generated by people that come in and say, oh, I've found a scorpion and now what do I do?
Yeah.
I need help. Or I hear this noise in the attic and it wakes me up at night. Or, I've got blood stains on my sheets. What's going on?
Okay. What do we see? What are the seasons here? What are we in? Okay, let's say we're recording this in May, June. What summer are you going to be? Mosquitoes, I guess. Isn't that time of year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're getting ready, especially with monsoons. Right now, we're heading into what we like to call pest season. So as the temperature ramps up.
Busy season. Big money season.
As the temperature ramps up, and we've had a really wet winter, which has caused a lot of insects, a lot of reproduction. They obviously, everything needs food, water, and shelter to survive, right? And insects are no different. So we've had a lot of population reproduction over the winter, and all that stuff is starting to swarm right now. From termites, we're seeing a lot of bees, a ton of bees this year. Some of them Africanized, which we've had a lot of people calling in a panic from that regard. And as we get into monsoon season, we're going to start to see some scorpions emerging. We're already getting scorpion calls, and as that nighttime temperature starts to warm up, those things are going to be very, very active, and then mosquitoes as well. Once we get a little bit more rain, some standing water, those mosquitoes are going to start to breed and repopulate.
Oh man! So, okay, so this is the season for all this stuff. It's the heat.
'Tis the season to be jolly.
Yeah, yeah, not for most of us. So in those cases, so I would think those would be panic calls, though. I mean, mosquitoes, you're going to get. Are those things that you should do proactively? Should you be taking care of this before it happens, or do you wait to see if you've got it? When do you act ahead of time, and are there things you can do ahead of time versus when you see evidence of something?
Absolutely. There's always things to do proactively.
Okay.
Whether you have a professional do it or whether you do it yourself, there's lots of things. So, for instance, rodents, that's mice, rats. There's a lot of things that you can do on your own. Look at your house, walk around it. If you've got a gap around the doors that's more than 1/4 of an inch, that's how a rodent will get into your home. So those are things that as a homeowner you can fix yourself.
Yeah.
Picking up if you've got fruit trees, picking up the fruit that's laying on the ground.
Yeah.
Keeping bushes and things trimmed up. Those are all not overwatering. Those are just, consumer things that they can do themselves without really any significant cost.
Okay. Now that's for rats.
Well, it's for a lot of things. Scorpions, for
Yeah.
example. Scorpions are predators, so they're out hunting other insects. So if you can control the water and the vegetation on the ground so that other insects don't harbor underneath of a plant,
Yeah.
then you're going to have less scorpion population. They're going to play in your neighbor's yard.
Okay. What do you see when it comes to scorpions, and where do you find them typically? Is there a place that you could typically see them, and is it at night versus day?
Well, absolutely. They are nocturnal. So at night, I know you mentioned earlier that you and your kids went out black lighting,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Scorpion hunting. So
Yep.
with the black light, they do glow under that UV light. So you can absolutely find them with a black light. They are going to hide in dark places. So they're going to be active at night, and then they're going to go back to their harborage area. And sometimes if they find their way inside our house, that ends up being in your shoe or a blanket or somewhere dark. And then the next morning you slip that shoe on, or the blanket gets pulled off the couch, and you find an unwelcome guest inside of it.
And they could be serious things, right? And or they could be, the sting can actually bring you to the hospital.
Yeah, I think that's very personally dependent.
Okay.
If you're an elderly person
Yeah.
or somebody maybe that has breathing troubles,
Right.
or asthma, some of those things, those stings can trigger some of those other things to be very, very reactive. Most kids, 5 and up, it's rare that you're going to see anything significant. I mean, it's painful.
Yeah.
You're going to see swelling. You're going to,
Yeah.
do some things. But if you call
Could have an
poison
angry
control,
kid. Yeah.
mad kid,
Yeah.
if you call poison control, they're going to usually tell you some processes to go through, some Advil to take, and things like that. But you always want to monitor that.
Which are the more are the bigger or the smaller, younger scorpions that are more dangerous? Is there one or the other? Or does it matter?
Yeah, the smaller ones. So we have multiple different species here
Okay.
in Arizona. We actually have over 100 species of scorpions.
Okay.
The bigger ones are the desert hairy scorpions, and those are actually a little bit less dangerous from the venom side of things. The Arizona bark scorpion, which is more medium in size, is the one that is potentially deadly. We do have that here in Arizona. There's a lot of hospitals that do carry antivenom for it, similar to like a rattlesnake bite. And to Dave's points, people with underlying conditions and certain health problems can be a serious concern.
How do you know you have those? I mean, if you have any scorpions, you should get something done, I guess. But are they about an inch? How big are they typically?
Yeah, they're about an inch to inch and a half in
Okay.
size. The Arizona bark scorpion is.
And those are the ones that are the most serious.
Those are the most serious as far as venom. Yes.
And you said bark. Is that where you typically would find them? And are these palm trees mostly, or where do they go?
Yeah, you're going to find them all over. To Dave's point, they are they're hunters. So
Yeah.
they're searching for food. They typically live in palm trees and under rocks, those dark areas where they can get inside of little cracks and crevices. But they're going to be out and about searching for other insects to eat, another meal.
So keeping some of the brush away from that area and trimming all that stuff and
Yeah.
keeping it down is
Absolutely.
Gonna help.
the palm trees, if you've got palm trees, strip them down, get down to, bare trunk, keep your palm trees trimmed up, keep your bushes trimmed up off the ground so that you don't have a lot of debris and darkness that develops underneath those vegetation or bushes.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. Similarly with rats, you don't want to have big cluttered areas that are dark that they can get into. And
they hide. It also creates nesting material for them.
I know we've been back and forth, but with rats, also, they eat the fruit off the trees, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
And so if you've got, and do they hide in oleander bushes a lot? Is that something, if you had a mixture of those two things, are you asking for trouble?
No.
Okay.
If they're there, they're there.
Okay.
So it's just,
you want somebody else to have the orange trees.
Well,
then you can just go take them.
The fruit dropping on the ground, that's going to attract a lot of things. Okay. Rats being one of them, ants being another.
Okay.
So flies being another. So it's just a good habit to get into, is clean that stuff up.
Okay, let's talk about ants. That's another thing that a lot of people have. And they seem to be, that's a tough one, I think, right? Because they can come in from anywhere, no matter what you put down on as low as the door is going to go. Cover those things, man, they're going to come in. What do you do? Would there be evidence? I guess you'd have to see the ants in order to know that they're probably there.
Yeah, most evidence of ants is going to be the ant trail themselves or the actual ants. So especially right now as the soil temperature is starting to rise, we're starting to see those ants come out of the ground. And sometimes it's difficult to identify where that colony or nest is because you may not be able to see the entrance. Not all ants mound, right? We all have seen pictures of big, huge ant mounds and things like that. And sometimes they do mound, but not all ants are mounding ants. So identifying where that colony is sometimes difficult. The biggest thing is, back to everything else, is just keeping the area clean. So we're talking about our kitchen, right? Sometimes people are seeing ants in their kitchen. It's making sure that we keep, whether it's dog food, sealed up so that there's not a food source there. After dinner, cleaning the counters, making sure there's not leftover crumbs that fell on the ground, and leaving that out for days or weeks is definitely a cause for insects.
Yeah, you want to say something?
Well, I think one of the biggest failures of homeowners on the do-it-yourself side with ants is not all ants eat the same thing. We have ants that prefer sugar-based food. We have ants that prefer protein-based food. So if you're just looking at cleaning up fruit, you're missing a whole species that may be protein-based, that may be eating other things.
Okay.
So it's important to, one, identify what type of ant you're dealing with and where are they coming from. Sometimes it really requires you just to sit and watch where they're going to, watch where they're coming from.
And we're going to get into what you guys do in just a minute here. But what about these home remedies? What about the stuff you buy at the store, the sprays, that kind of stuff? What do you think for ants?
Well, again, this is where one product isn't a fix-all. Yeah. You can't go to the box store and buy one product and expect it to work on every species of ant. It doesn't work. Okay. You'll need, again, to identify what type of ant it is. What are they eating? Are they eating sweet stuff or are they eating protein stuff? Then you can find the appropriate bait based around what that is, and then you'll have very good success in getting rid of the ants.
Mosquitoes, always a nuisance, especially if everybody's got pools around here and probably pooled water. But it makes a lot of sense about having less, water around. If you can do that and less of that. Anything else you can think about to get rid of some of the mosquitoes that are going to be coming?
Mosquitoes are one of those things that that we overlook some of the tiniest things. So just a bottle cap, plastic bottle, water bottle cap, full of water, it will be able to mature out over 1,000 mosquitoes.
Okay.
Just in that one little bottle cap. Right. So now we're starting to look at very small water sources. Common landscape in Arizona is granite. So 3/4 minus granite or 3/4 minus rock on top of dirt. Well, we water the plant. It goes through all that granite, all that rock, and then sits on the dirt.
Okay.
So now we have a water source that we don't even see. It's underneath the rock. Okay. It's shaded. It's continuous. So monitoring the watering and do you need to water? And then we get monsoon rains, and then in Arizona, it's typical. I'm not going to mess with the water. It'll be hot tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so then we have, we just have water sources everywhere. The dogs, the cats, the animals, they need water to survive. Yeah. So we leave that sit out there all day long. So the dog has water. Well, now we have mosquito problems.
So you guys were unlucky. You didn't get the call for the bees at Chase.
No, no, we didn't.
That guy's a hero now.
He is.
Oh,
he
man.
is.
Austin, that could have been you out there,
he's,
man.
He's the
throwing the first pitch.
He's the MVP. That's what they're calling him.
Oh, man, it was hilarious to watch that. Yeah, I mean, bees is the other thing. And I guess this is pretty evident when you see bees swarming around an area, right? So, but it can be hidden. I mean, how many have you seen cases where it's just kind of hidden in the wood someplace in the roof and you can't really find it? It's hard to find.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, certain areas of the house. So the bees themselves, when you see the big ball or the big swarm, it's pretty evident and recognizable. But there's times where they start to make a hive actually inside of the structure. And so there'll be a small little gap or a hole, typically in the eaves or the fascia board of the house. And there's times where there may be the south side of my house, for example. It's my side yard, and I barely walk over there. So there could be times where it's a few weeks of no activity before someone actually notices it. And at that time, you're not seeing the big ball of bees. You're only seeing a few going in and out of a hole. So it can go unnoticed for quite some time.
Well, have you seen people? Go ahead.
Well, I think that being diligent on watching. So just because you see a few bees doesn't necessarily mean it's a problem. It also doesn't mean it isn't a problem.
Yeah.
We see backyard sheds. They're very common. The backside, nobody's going on the backside of the shed. It's up against the wall or whatever. So the bees get back down in there, and then all of a sudden people wake up and they've got hives that are 10 and 12 feet long.
Yeah. Do you see in these cases the bees in most cases will leave people alone and they're just doing their stuff? If you don't bother them, they don't bother you, and people are just freaked by it? Want them out?
I think bees are just one of those things that are always on people's mind. They're necessary. They're a piece of our environment that we absolutely have to have.
Yeah.
The European honeybee, the most common bee we have, for the most part is non-aggressive, and you won't have any problem. And so if you don't bother them, they won't bother you.
Yeah.
The problem we have in Arizona is most of the bee colonies have been Africanized.
Okay.
They have very aggressive tendencies. Now, that's what freaked people out. But if they understand that when the bee is not in its hive state, where it's not in and out of a wall, they're pretty much docile. They're not going to bother you too much. So if they're not blocking you in an entryway or they're out in a tree, if you stay away from them, they're not going to bother you, and they're probably going to be gone in a short period of time.
All right, let's go into what you guys do. So let's start with bees. So you get a call about bees, and they're hundreds, thousands. I don't know. Maybe they exaggerate. But you get out there. What do you do? What's your first thing that you do? I mean,
Well, the very first thing we do,
put on the gear.
Yeah, well, you never go out without a bee suit on.
Yeah.
So you evaluate the situation.
Yeah.
Number one, are the bees aggressive? Are they Africanized? How close are they to the people? Is it a situation that people are at risk? You've got to treat those differently. Then we have to look at, is the bee available? So if we've got bees on a wall, we can a lot of times just go in and vacuum those up. We can literally, you saw that at the Diamondbacks game. That's what they did. They took the bees, they calmed them down, and they just literally took a vacuum and vacuumed them up. When you get the queen, you capture the queen in the vac, and you hold it. Then all the rest of the bees, they're there protecting the queen. So when you take her away, they're all eventually going to go away.
Okay.
That's the simple version.
Yeah.
Once they get inside a wall, that's where things start to get more complicated, because now we have a hive situation. They're going to protect the hive. So if they're Africanized and you go and disturb them and they're in a hiving mode, you're going to have your hands full.
Okay. Let's go into protections for consumers here. I mean, you guys have been doing this a long time. You're an accredited BBB accredited business, so you have you have a higher standard. But some companies probably don't. And have you seen these? There are companies out there, I guess, businesses.
Sure.
Yeah, like they are in every industry. So what would be a warning sign when you're hiring a business that there may be an issue? Is it a lack of a contract? You talk contracts, good and bad. What would be something, and what should people do when they're hiring?
Well, I think the very first thing as a consumer, you should be analyzing the questions that the company asks you.
Okay.
If you say, I have a bee problem, and they say, okay, it's $150 and I can come out in an hour.
Yeah.
You should worry about that one.
Okay.
If they start asking you, where are they at? What are they doing? Is anybody at risk? If they're balled up in a tree and they say, how far away from the house is it? It's 200 feet. Do you have the ability to leave them alone? Because if you have the ability to leave them alone, they're going to go away. So I think, one, analyzing those questions. What is the company asking you?
Okay.
And then two, I think you always have to look at what is their plan? What are they going to do? Are they going to come out and look at it first and then give you a price and give you an explanation of what needs to happen? That's the proper way to do it.
Okay.
If somebody just says, yeah, everything we do is $100, then those are the ones that you probably should question.
And those are the cases where sometimes they come out and they're like, oh, it's going to be $550. You're like, well, wait a second. You told me 100 on the phone. Well, we thought that it was going to be different based on what you were saying.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Okay. So you're saying, wait, have them come out, and they may tell you at that time it's going to be a certain amount. And you can decide what you're going to do or not.
Exactly. And you should have everything in writing.
Okay.
The company should provide you written documentation of what they're going to do, what the charge, what the warranty is.
Yeah.
What if they don't get rid of all the bees? Are they going to come back? Is there a charge for that? What happens if it doesn't work?
Yeah. So check reviews. Go to bbb.org. Check other places for that. Look for accredited businesses. We'll say, yeah, we're here with the BBB, but that's a really good thing to do. And then also call them out, have them see the situation, look at a contract or whatever at that point, and then you can decide what you want to do.
Yeah.
You're not held to it at that time,
Nope.
I guess, right?
Not at all.
Okay. And then a warranty if there's an issue that develops afterwards, you want to be covered there.
I believe, Joe, that's really important because your warranty in our industry is only as good as the company.
Yeah.
So if the company's not around tomorrow, you don't have a warranty.
Have you seen businesses go out of business?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All the time.
Okay. What about the low price? I'm sure your guys, you do things the right way. You have certain costs, insurance, all those things, maybe that other people aren't paying as much for. They can go lower on their price. What do you battle with that sometimes? These people who aren't,
Yeah, you battle those types of companies in just virtually every industry. I think that if you're concerned about what the end result's going to be, then you need to look at what company you're hiring.
Yeah.
Are they a reputable company? How long have they been in business? What is their service area? If you're going to hire a company with one truck, then you better be prepared that if that one truck is busy and you need something, you're probably not going to get the response that you might have expected.
Okay.
You got to weigh those things.
Let me ask you about Austin, and I know, Dave, you know about this too, but about protections or regulations. I know the state has a pest control bureau, I think, I don't know if that's what it's called.
It's under the Department of Agriculture, the Pest Management Division. Yep.
Pest man, what are they have much teeth? Is there much regulation? Is there much that they can do if there's a problem for consumers?
So from a consumer standpoint, the only thing the Pest Management Division is going to do is verify, first off, that the company is licensed under the Department of Agriculture.
So there has to be a license.
There is a license. And then each employee that is applying pesticides is licensed as well.
Okay.
So that's really the only thing they're looking for is licensing from a consumer standpoint. And then beyond that, they're looking at the application itself. Did that person apply the product in a safe manner according to the label that the manufacturer of the product stated it was safe to apply in? Okay,
so the costs and the disagreements about that, are those typically things that people have to take later? It's a civil matter. They go to court. They do whatever they're going to do?
Yeah, that really is the consumer's only option is a civil is a civil case. So civilly, that's how you would take care of any contract or price dispute.
Yeah.
And that's quite honestly very complicated and long.
Yeah.
It's most people don't want to go through that. And so the Pest Management Division, they aren't geared to do that. That's the statute that we have in Arizona does not give them that authority to control contracts.
Do you feel like that's a pretty good thing right now, or would you like to see maybe a couple more things in terms of regulation or how things should be done? No?
I'm a free enterprise type guy. I think that there are plenty of industry things out there like the BBB that's available that you can check out companies, you can get referrals. Gosh, with the internet now, you've got the ability to research literally anybody anywhere to however depth you want to take it.
Yeah.
So I think there's plenty of resources out there. I think the BBB is a good one where, they're willing to step in and talk and kind of build the bridge between. I think the biggest failure that people might have is just call and talk to the right person at the company.
Yeah. And I would say also that, and I say this to, I definitely did something that was pro-consumer, but it was never anti-business, and I know consumers aren't always right. Do you get people sometimes who misunderstood what was being said, or consumers who thought something but it wasn't the case? And now's your time.
Yeah. That's a common thing.
Yeah.
Not most of the things that we deal with in pest control, they become emotional.
Yeah.
I've got bees, I need somebody right now. I've got rats, I need somebody right now.
Right.
My child was stung by a scorpion, I need something right now.
Yeah.
And so we react without doing our research.
Yeah.
Or asking the questions. Again, how long have you been in business? What is the warranty? All the different things that you really should do, we tend to forget because we let emotion jump in.
How long have you been in business?
41 years.
41 years. My Lord. Well, that's a long time, especially in this area.
Yes.
All right, guys, that was great. Let's, we're already there. So let's, is there like a last, maybe 30 seconds? Is there a last statement you'd say, or something that maybe you left out, or maybe one thing that maybe consumers should think about when they're hiring?
I would say the one thing we didn't hit on is when you're talking contractually from a consumer standpoint, double check what's included.
Okay.
Because not all the time does it include all the insects, right? If you're getting general service, a lot of companies, they're not going to include bed bugs, for example, right? It doesn't include bees or stinging insects. So verify what you're paying for, but more importantly, what insect does it cover?
Okay.
And I think to just tag on to that is, remember, a contract or a warranty is only as good as the company that issues it. If you're expecting a termite treatment that's going to last 10 or 15 years and the company's been in business 4 months, there's not really a good track record there that you can say, I'm going to get my 10-year warranty out of this.
Do people, with your company, or is it the way do you think it should be done where people buy a warranty, or is it included with can they buy, is there a warranty for a certain period of time and they can extend that with an extra cost? Okay.
Yeah. In most cases, that's the way it is. It is whatever the service you get will have some kind of a warranty. And in most cases, you can extend, especially in the termite control side, you can extend those warranties out multiple years.
Okay. Guys, that's great. That's Dave Burns, President and General Manager of Burns Pest Elimination. I like elimination. That's a great word. Pest control, I think, but elimination is better. And Austin Burns, Director of Operations at Burns. Thank you guys for being here.
Hey, thanks, Joe. We appreciate it.
Before hiring, go to BBB.org, check reviews, and for accredited businesses that agree to operate ethically. And see all my podcasted videos, joeknowsbetter.bbbcommunity.org. I'm Joe Ducey with the Better Business Bureau, helping businesses and consumers get it right.